Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Agudath Etz Ahayem Synagogue here in Montgomery, Alabama. I am Rabbi Scott Kramer. Welcome to those in person and online. I hope everyone had a wonderful week. Looking forward to a nice Shabbat with you. We are praying out of Siddur Lev Shalem, and we will begin on page 5 with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Page 11. We continue with Psalm 95. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena ladonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena ladonai. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Nekad Mafana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Bizmirot Naria Lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena ladonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena ladonai. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Nekad Mafana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Bizmirot Naria Halom. Emily, would you lead us responsively on page 11, please?
Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our high protector. Filled with thanks, let us worship God, raising our voice in song. Great is sovereign Lord, great is sovereign Lord. God is Lord, great is deed. Mountain cliffs too are God's good. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai, who formed us. For Adonai is our God, we are God's law. She is God's hearing hands. If only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted like the people at Meribah, like the town of Massa in the desert, when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had wrought. For 40 years I was troubled by agitation, and I said, these are people whose hearts are unrestrained. They do not know my way. So man professes the word without knowing
Arba'im shanakut bedor va'omam to'e levavim va'im lo yadid rachai asher nishpati v'api im yavaon el menuchati. Page 13, Psalm 96. Shiru ladonai shir chadash, Shiru ladonai kol haaretz, Shiru ladonai baruch shamo, Basru meyom leyom Yeshuato, Sapru vagoyim gevodo, Bechol ha'amim nifliotov, Ki gadol Adonai, umehulal miyod, no rahu. Alko Elohim lai lai lai, Kiko Elohe ha'amim elilim, V'Adonai shamayim asa, Ad ve'adar lefanav, Oz v'tiferet b'mikdasho, Avul Adonai mishpachot amim, Avul Adonai kavod vos, Avul Adonai ke'evod shemo, Seu mincha, Ovahu lechadzerod of lai lai lai, Shtachavu Adonai, Behadrat Kodesh, Chilu mipanav kol haaretz, Imrum vagoyim, Adonai malach, Avtikum tevel balatimod, Yadina amim b'meisharim, Yismechu hashamayim v'tagil haaretz, Ayiram hayamu melo, Yalo sadai, V'chol asher bo lai lai lai, Azirandenu kolat seyar, Lifnei Adonai kiva, Kiva lishpot haaretz, Yishpot tevel b'tzedek, V'yamim b'emunato, Yalai la lai lai, Yai la la lai lai, Yai lai lai lai, Lai 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 lai, Yai lai lai lai, Yai lai 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 lai, Yai lai lai lai. We continue page 15 with Psalm 97. Betty, would you lead us, please?
Adonai reigns, let the earth be glad, the wind his complaints rejoice. Clouds and his rain, the ground of the vine, and his nose secure house to grow. Fire goes before God, consumes the sea and earth. Flashings of lightning illumine the land, the earth watches and trembles. Mountains melt like wax at the approach of Adonai, at the approach of the Master of all the earth. The heavens tell of God's righteousness, and all the nations see God's glory. Worshippers of idols be shamed, for praising false gods. All that is deemed supreme bow before God. Zion, hear your voice, cities of Judah, as you are in all past judgment. You, Adonai, are above all that is lifted, exalted over all that is worshipped with divine. Those who know Adonai are naked. God protects the lives of the faithful, saving them from the hands of the sinner. Light is sung for the righteous, and joy for the upright. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine holy name.
Or Zarula Tzadik will Israel have Simcha, Simchu Tzadikim Badunai, Vaudu Lezecher Kadisho. Thank you very much, Betty. We continue page 17 with Psalm 98. Mizmor Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash Ki Niflaot Asa Hoshia Lo Yemino Ozero Wako Joadia Adonai Yeshuato Le'enar Goyim Gilat Kato Zachar Chasta Ve'emunato Levei Yisrael Ra'u Cholav Se'aretz Et Yeshuat Eloheinu Horiu Ladonai Kol Haaretz Bitzchum Ve'ranenu V'zameru Zamru Ladonai Bechinar Ve'kol Zimara Bechatzot Rod Ve'kol Shofar Hariu Lifnei HaMelech Adonai Yiramayam Umaloho Tevel Ve'yoshveva נהרות עמך וכף יחד הרים ירננו לפני אדוני כי בא לשפוט הארץ לשפוט תבל בצדק וימים במישרים ילאי ללאי 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 ילאי ללאי ללאי ילאי ללאי 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 ילאי ללאי 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 ילאי ללאי ללאי ילאי ללאי ללאי Yalai la lai la lai 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 Yai lai lai la lai 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 lai. We continue page 19 with Psalm 99. Adonai reigns, nations tremble. The one enthroned amidst the cherubim makes the world quake. A sovereign strength lies in the love of justice, and you forge the paths of truth, judging Jacob righteously and justly. Moses and Aaron among God's priests, and Samuel among those who called upon the divine name, called to you, and you answered them. You spoke to them from amidst the cloud. They kept your covenant and the law you gave them. You answered them, Adonai, our God. You were a forgiving God to them, even as you punished them for their transgressions. Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu la'ar kadosho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. We rise, page 21 with Psalm 29. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, havu l'Adonai kavod vos, havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim Adonai al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai be'adar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et al ze halvanon, Vayarkidem kemo egel, Lebanon v'Sirion kemo ven reimim. Kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel ayalot, Vayechesop nyahot, Uvehechalo kulo merkavod. Adonai lamabul yashav, Yeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz liamo yitem, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. You may be seated. And we continue page 23. Lecha dodi lekrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi lekrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmi'anu elam yuchad. Adonai echad u'shamo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'letila. Lecha dodi lekrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lekrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mikora biracha merosh mikedem nesucha, Sov maaseh b'machshat chila. Lecha dodi lekrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Mikdash melech עיר מלוכה. קומי צאי מתוך האפך רב לך שווה בימי קבחה והוא יחמו עלייך חמלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה התנערי מעפר קומי לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי היד בן ישי בית הלחמי קרבל אל נפשי גיילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי קיבה אורי קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לא תבושי ולא תקמי מה תשתוכחי ומה תנמיבך יחסו אני עמי ונבנתה יראלתי לה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה דהיו למשיסה שועשייך ורחקו כל מבלייך יסיס עלייך אלוהייך כמחס חתן על כלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה ימין ושמאל תפרצי ואת אדוני תריצי היד איש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. We rise as we face the entrance to greet the Shabbat bride for the last stanza of Lechadudi, page 25. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvetzala tochem munei am segula boi chala lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. We continue page 27 with Psalm 92. Tina, would you lead us responsively? Yeah, you.
A psalm, the song of the day of Shabbat. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name, Most High, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork.
I wonder for all your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs.
The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms, only to be destroyed forever.
But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time.
Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered.
As a wild bull raises up his horn, you raise my head high, anointed it with fresh oil.
As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear.
The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in our God's courtyard.
In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw.
Tzadikatamar yifrach ke'erez balvanon Yizke shetulim bevet Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva Deshenim verananim yeyu lehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlata boom. Page 29, Psalm 93. David, would you lead us, please?
Adonai is sovereign, robed in splendor, girded in strength. The earth stands firm, not to be dislodged. From earliest time you were enthroned. You are eternal.
The rivers rise up, Adonai. The rivers raise up their roar. The rivers raise up their waves. Above the roar of the vast sea and the majestic breakers of the ocean, Adonai stands supreme in the heavens.
In your house, beautiful in its holiness, your testimonies endure, Adonai, for all time.
Thank you very much, David. Shabbat Shalom. So nice to see so many smiling faces, actual faces, not just little 2-inch or a name on a screen. I'm so delighted to be with you this evening and as we celebrate Shabbat together. A few years ago, I gave, and I'll probably do this again at some point, I gave a drash on something I learned in rabbinical school that prohibited something that I had been doing comfortably my entire life, that of taking my shoes off when I lead services. I have since learned a lot of things that turned my safe and secure world of Jewish observance upside down. Believe it or not, there are still a few things that have not been changed, and I hold on to them for dear life. One of them is an item that I suspect most of you will have the opposite impression. So, I have a question. What would you think would be the main difference between Judaism and Catholicism when it comes to prayer and communication with God? So I would venture a guess that the majority, after some amount of coaxing, would say that Judaism does not employ an intermediary between us and God, whereas Catholicism does. I would extend this thought and imagine that most of you would also say that this was always the case, that Jews prayed to God directly without the need of an agent of divine delivery. But the fact of the matter is that was not always the case. Even the Torah tells us that this is not the case. Leviticus and a part of Numbers, including our own portion this week, Naso, details all of the duties of the Kohanim, the priests, and the Levites in regards to their offering sacrifices for the regular Israelites who cannot do it themselves. Since the temple was destroyed, the function of this vast group of intermediaries was eliminated. We could not offer sacrifices, so of what purpose was there need for the priests or the Kohanim? Rabbinic Judaism felt, and Rabbinic Judaism was created around after the destruction of the temple, around the year 70 CE. Rabbinic Judaism felt that we should remember in some way the hereditary nature of the priest, if only nostalgically, in several ways. First, we reserve the first two aliyot for the reading of the Torah for the Kohen, or the priest, and the Levite. In Orthodox and in a little less than half of conservative synagogues, including ours, this remains the tradition today. Priests are not allowed into the cemetery except to bury those they are obligated to mourn. There are a few marriage prohibitions for the Kohen, but these are mostly ignored today in all but Orthodoxy. The last remnant observance for the priest is detailed in our Torah portion, Naso, for this week. In Numbers 22, it reads as follows. Vayedaber Adonai Moshe lemor, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Daber el Aaron v'el banav, speak to Aaron and his sons lemor, saying, Ko devrachachu et b'nei Yisrael amor lehem, thus shall you bless the people of Israel, saying to them, Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may the Lord bless you and protect you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, may the Lord cause his spirit to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisad Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord turn his spirit unto you and grant you peace. V'samu et shemi al b'nei Yisrael v'ani avarachachem. And they shall put my name upon the people of Israel, and I will bless them. These words were reserved for the priests as well, but only in a very limited and totally spiritual way. In one of the three closing brachot, or blessings of the Amidah prayer, this threefold blessing is found and is only recited during a full repetition of the Amidah. So never at night, only in the morning and afternoon. Usually the person leading services says these words, but on very special times of the Jewish year, these remnants of the ancient holy priests remove their shoes, lucky ducks, have their hands washed by the remnant of the Levites, and if there are no Levites, the firstborn, and ascend the bima. Then they take their talitot and they extend it over their heads, holding it up in a very unique way, unique and special way, which is probably recognizable to all Star Trek fans as the sign of Vulcan, but indeed is the sign of the Kohanim. The story, if you have not heard it, is that Spock, who is Leonard Nimoy, who is Jewish and a Kohen, would in his youth go under his father's talit and watch him make this sign, holding his talit up. When it came time to make his character of Spock unique, the only thing he could think of was this hand sign. And so it became incorporated in the Star Trek lingo as the live long and prosper sign. Growing up in an Orthodox shul in Baltimore, I still remember going to services on the high holidays and watching, after the traditional selling of the aliyot, those Kohanim go up before the ark and extend their talitot over their heads. At this point, my cousin and I, we were very young, very immature, almost on cue would turn around and act one looking in would see as totally disrespectful, so as not to see the Kohanim say this special blessing. One is not allowed to look at the Kohen during this holy rite. If you look around, people would hold their books in front of their faces. or cover themselves with their own talitot to prevent peeking. I can still hear that tune that only the Kohanim sang on this special occasion. I will not repeat that song. I was always enthralled with this procedure and would look forward to it with anticipation. It was always a highlight of the services, like the shofar, but a lot more mysterious. I was so disappointed when I found out after moving to Salt Lake City that liberal Judaism, for the most part, did away with this awesome service, so filled with meaning and nostalgia. I don't know, did they ever do that here in Montgomery? I'm sure they did. Then I went to Israel and found a different custom. There, the priestly blessing is performed every day. I have to tell you, the first 30 times I witnessed this procedure was special, but by the second month in Israel, it had grown old and stale. One thing we got right in the diaspora: don't wear a good thing out too quickly. But we say the priestly blessing at other times as well, and not necessarily by the Kohanim. You may have recognized the words that I said. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, right? First of all, when the Amidah is repeated, whoever is leading the service, a Kohen, Levite, or Israelite, recites it. On Friday nights, when we used to have children here, if you can remember, a long time ago, I would invite them up into the bima, and I would recite this blessing over them. And finally, parents recited to their children at the Shabbat dinner table. I always recite this to my children, even when they visited, and some of them have full-grown beards, I still recite this to them. Rabbi Joshua Heller of JTS says, the role and responsibility of those giving the blessing is clear. However, what is the responsibility of those who receive the blessing? Must they be present to receive it? What about those who are out in the fields or working and not able to make it to synagogue at all? The Talmud in Sota 38b presents an unexpected conclusion. Those who are behind the priests, even if they are within the precincts of the synagogue, do not receive the benefit of the blessing, while paradoxically those who are out in the fields, out of earshot, perhaps not even aware that they are being blessed, enjoy its full effect. It would be an undue hardship for those toiling in the fields to come all the way into town to hear the blessing and then return to their work. And they are regarded as anisi, blameless, due to forces beyond their control. Even an iron curtain would not separate the path of divine blessing. In contrast, those who are in the city, or indeed in the synagogue, and do not trouble themselves to come for just a few minutes to participate, do not deserve the benefit of the doubt. The sages realized the significance of this teaching, applying it to those who could not reach the synagogue for other types of worship as well. But in fact, it has even broader implications in our own day. We live in an era of specialization in which anything from financial management to cooking to childbirth can be outsourced. While there are certainly many times when a professional, an expert, or a helping hand is appropriate and even essential, There is a danger in applying this instinct too broadly and in the realm of religious life as well. Sometimes the desire for surrogacy is relatively innocuous. Often I'm approached by those who ask if I can pray for the recovery of someone who is ill. Rabbi, can you make a mishaberach for so-and-so? I know you have no idea who they are, but I don't really get to synagogue often, and you know how to do it. Always out of sensitivity, I'll take the name and add it without comment. I wish sometimes that I could muster the gumption to insist. Of course I'll pray for so-and-so, but it would be so much more meaningful if you, as someone who cares so deeply, could be present to pray as well. It happens on a more troubling level when institutions or groups often offer dispensations to avoid Jewish responsibility or involvement in exchange for financial support. For example, there are any number that offer a Kaddish service in exchange for a contribution. A suitably pious surrogate, perhaps even in authentic Jewish costume, will say a memorial prayer daily for your deceased loved one. Perhaps it is effective fundraising, but it sends an unfortunate message that it is appropriate to rely on others to discharge our own religious obligations, and negates the role that average Jews can and must play in their own religious lives. Of course, there is a reason why this approach is so appealing. There are those who have fallen so out of touch with even the most basic Jewish ritual and practice, and that they feel like their ancestors who toiled in the fields with blessings totally beyond their grasp and cannot even imagine coming in. Most of us, though, are like the city dwellers who were obligated to come and be in front of the priests as they offered their blessings. We may rely on religious leaders to create ritual experience for us to embrace, but we cannot live vicariously through those leaders. Despite the urge to let others be Jewish on our behalf, we must be physically and spiritually present to experience the full blessing of God's presence, of God's face. Shabbat Shalom. We'll now continue with Ma'ariv. I ask everyone to please rise as we turn to page 39a for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Vo'ed. You may be seated. Baruch et Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rose light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. Umahavir yom umevi laila, mavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai Tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu lam v'ohed baruch atah Adonai. Hamariv Aravim, page 40. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amchavta Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shakveinu v'kumeinu, nesiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha, le'olam vohed. Ki em chayenu v'orech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla v'yavatecha tasim mimenu la'olamin baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'oela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alavavecha v'shinanatam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shachbecha v'kumecha u'kshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot b'neinecha Uchtabtam nam zuzot beitecha uvisharecha v'hayim shamo et Yishmael mitzvotah asher anochi mitzvotechem niyam li'avav et Adonai Elohechem ulavto v'natati sabechem mechamdach v'chem v'charaf Adonai b'chem v'yatzar t'shemai v'lo yematar כשאתם נוצן להיות על ידיכם והיו לטוטפות בין עיניכם לתת להם כימי השמיים הארץ ויאמר אדוני משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם ויעשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורתם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף בתיל תכלת והיה לכם לציצית הוריתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם ולא תטו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם למען תסגרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת page 43a. This is our enduring affirmation binding on us that Adonai is our God and there is none other, and we, Israel, are God's people. God is our sovereign, redeeming us from earthly rulers, delivering us from the hand of all tyrants, bringing judgment upon our oppressors and just retribution upon all our mortal enemies, performing wonders beyond understanding and marvels beyond all reckoning. God places us among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, leads us past the false altars of our enemies, exalting us above all those who hate us. Adonai avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh, offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. God brought Israel from its midst to lasting freedom and led them through the divided waters of the Sea of Reeds. as their pursuers and enemies drowned in the depths. God's children beheld the power of the divine. They praised and acknowledged God's name. Page 44. U'malchuta b'ratzon ki b'aleihem Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael chanishira b'simcha rabba v'yameru chulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedor b'kodesh nora tehilot o seifele Malchutecha uvenecha bokeyam lifnei Moshe Zeli anu v'yameru Adonai yimloch leolam voed v'nehemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov ugalod mirachazak mimenu baruch et Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Page 45. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom. Ushmotzetenu ven l'chaim ushlam yatav yad olam ufros alenu sukat shlomecha baruch et Adonai haporet sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. Page 46. We rise. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim Adonai asa Adonai et hashamayim haaretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash vishamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. We now recite the silent Amidah, pages 47 through 52. continue on page 58 as we, 56, as the ark is open for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latei gdula liyotzei bereshit shelo asanu kugoye aratzot velo samanu kamishmachot hadama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'goraleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרא בשמיים נמהר ושכינת זו בגבי מרמים הוא אלוהינו אינו עמד מלכנו ארץ זולתו כתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשיבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד אלוקים לראות מהר ופתיפך תוזך להביא גדולים מן הארץ. יגדו בתורתך אדוני מלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. You may be seated. This week we will observe yard sites for Mildred Shepard, Matilda Habib Franco, Hanula Israel, Leon Kermish, Sydney Martin, Natalie Buchanan, Herbert Leibovitz, Rosa Silverberg, Abraham Chudnovsky, Randolph A. London, Matilda C. Franco, Jean Kapoya, Bobby Feldman, Sylvan Kramer, Berta Mitnick, Solomon Russo, Ruth Bruchus, Sari Chernow, Dora Ego, Leo Finkelstein, and Denise K. Hannon. And we add to that list one who was taken from us yesterday, Carolyn Roberts. Her funeral will be Sunday at noon at Greenwood Cemetery. And Shiva will take place at her home at, I believe it's 468 River Oaks Drive in Wetumpka. You all should have gotten an email with all the particulars. The funeral and Shiva will be on both on Facebook live at the Agudath Israel Etz Ahayem channel. Those observing yard site and those who mourn, please rise and join me on page 58 for the Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba b'yomad yivrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayichon v'yimechon v'chayedechol beit Yisrael ba'agalav izman kariv imaru amen yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'elam olmel maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kudusha barichu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'am niran b'yoma v'imaru amen Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru amen Oseh shalom b'mirmav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru amen. And you may all be seated. Thank you all for joining me, for joining us for Kabbalat Shabbat. It was nice to see that for the majority of the service, kind of seesawed a little bit, but we had more people in person than we had online for the most part. It changed at a couple points, but for the most part, we had more people in person, so it's been very nice. I would like to see both numbers go up, actually. In any event, services will continue tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. And the Alabama Community Virtual Havdalah will meet tomorrow night. We have a time change for those that come to our Havdalah service. It is now at 8:30. So if you come at 8, you'll be a half hour early. So come, by all means, come early. But we have moved it to 8:30. And that is via Zoom. And again, for those either online or in person, if you're not on our list and would like to attend, just send me an email and I'll get you the Zoom link. And that is it. So we will go ahead and conclude our service with Adon Olam, page 211. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'edasa v'chefso kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora Vehu aya, vehu ove, vehu yeh betifara, vehu yeh betifara, vehu echad v'yein sheni l'am shelo leachbira, beli reshit, beli tachlit, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra, Vehu eli v'chai go'ali v'tzor chevli b'yetzara Vehu nisi umanosli min hatkosi b'yomekra min hatkosi b'yomekra b'yado afkid ruchi b'yet ishan v'yaira V'immaruchi geviati Adonai li v'lo ira Adonai li v'lo ira Shabbat Shalom.